Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be looking at Amar's Timber. I'm sure a lot of you guys are curious what makes this guy so dang good at TIMBERSAW. I mean, literally OG first picked at this game. I want you to look at the enemy heroes. Does it look like a good Timber game? Not really. I would say the only matchup that I think is good for TIMBERSAW is Io, because Io doesn't directly threaten Timber. Io is actually a strength hero, so Timber's Q is good against Io, but other than that, Nyx Assassin is horrible for Timber. Puck is not good for Timber. Darkseer, I would say, is like fine because he doesn't really have much of a stun and you can kind of get away from the Ion Shell, so that one's not too bad. And then Leshrac is definitely not so good. The only thing I will say that I actually don't really like about Nigma's draft this game is that I definitely don't feel like Leshrac is really the response to Timber. I don't think the lane is honestly that bad. We're gonna see that in this game. And I honestly think the biggest way to shut down Timber is kind of make sure he doesn't have much of a start, right? But he's gonna have 15 CS about 3 minutes in, which is almost as good as it gets. So yeah, let's get into it. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm gonna be able to help you. Like literally with the GameLeap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the GameLeap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below, I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there. In terms of starting items from Amar, what we're going to see here is a Wand 3 branch. It's a pretty common build nowadays. It gives you quite a bit of armor, nearly a full point of armor, because 7 agi is 1 armor. This gives you 6 agi. And it kind of just lets you trade better over time. That's at least what I've seen. I'm sure these pro players have done the numbers. At least, I think Aoi probably did the numbers, because I believe this first started with Tundra, and he's a very respectable player. Well, he won TI. But either way, let's see what he does on Amar. So first things first, he's actually going to skill his Q in this lane. I honestly feel like he could have skilled the E, but the problem with skilling E on Timber is your wave is going to get doubled. The reason why your wave is going to get doubled is you're going to be basically just tanking creeps the whole time, and even with reactive armor, you can't really sit in the creep wave yet. And so he goes for his Q and actually uses that as a way to secure the first melee creep. From there, the key to Timber is pulling maxed range creep aggro practically off cooldown, and I'm not kidding. This is the name of the game for Timber. Here, because his Q is on cooldown, he's gonna have to back up. I even think he maybe could have tried to pull aggro there, but he actually doesn't, which maybe shoves in the wave a little bit faster. That's interesting. Because he didn't pull creep aggro on his disengage, the wave actually stays alive for a bit longer. But he's going to pull the wave back now, go for a very defensive CS here, gets it. Then he's going to pull aggro again on this melee creep, keep it alive. He's going to auto-attack it here, and you'll actually see he's not really worried about keeping it alive, because he could have aggroed it back again to keep it alive. Seems like he doesn't mind the wave shoving in a bit. And I think the reason for that is he understands that against 2 ranged heroes, the wave shoving in a bit is actually kind of a good thing. That was a beautiful stun from Miracle. It's kind of a good thing because these ranged heroes don't want to tank a creep wave. You'll see around the tree line, you want to spam Whirling Death. It's actually ridiculous how much damage this ability does if they're in the tree line, because for every tree that you hit with the Q, it does 11 bonus damage, and that's pure damage. So this ability can do like 140 damage, or even sometimes more, if you're in the tree line, and so it's really valuable in these scenarios to hit the enemy with a big Q. Even here, yeah, you can see he turned. He was like, you guys better not chase me in the trees. GH is in kill range. If he doesn't stick or Fairy Fire, he's in kill range as a strength hero at 158 in the tree line. And Amar knows that, so he was looking for it there. Here, Miracle does a good job of pulling aggro onto the range creeps. This is where Timber honestly struggles most as a hero. It's when the enemy kind of pushes in your wave a little bit and they hit level 2 first. You really have to pull aggro for max range. You're going to see that's exactly what he does here. He's going to pull aggro, then pull it again. You have to build reactive this way. On top of that, you have to avoid confrontation. You can't man up to the majority of lanes as Timber. It simply does not work in the early levels. Players get this wrong, they feed, and they get off to a bad start. You're not playing to win the lane early on. You'll never see Amar just dumping on the enemy at level 1, level 2 in practically any matchup. There's basically no hero that you really trade well to. Maybe like Wraith King, maybe. Early on. Even then, it's like, even something like Spectre can basically beat Timber early on. Not completely, but to an extent. But yeah, at some point in the lane, what you'll see from Amar is that he kind of stops using his Q. He definitely stops using it on the creep wave. And I think that's because he understands that, you know, at this point in the lane, they don't really mind tanking the creeps anymore. What I mean by that is the IO has enough sustain where he can kind of keep Miracle at a very high HP point. And so he's actually not queuing so that the wave shoves in. From there, he's going to continue to build reactive, actually drag those specific creeps under tower, which is pretty key on Timber, because you want to be getting the tower buff as much as you can, right? You want to be sitting under your tower so you continue to get that extra bit of regen, that extra bit of armor, and just in general playing defensive. Even here, when his line gets gone on, you're going to notice he's not even going to bother helping, because that's not what you do as Timber. You don't fight early on, you don't win the lane, you just play defensive and pull aggro. Especially when you hit level 3, this is when you start to become basically invincible for the most part if you can pull aggro consistently. And I'm making this the theme of the early game because it is literally what makes this hero playable early on. Creep aggro is literally the only thing that makes Timber a playable hero at a high level. If I put you in a pro game and you're bad at creep aggro as Timber, you will have a total of 5 CS at minute like 5. And if you think I'm kidding, I wish we could set up that experiment. That would be really interesting. Honestly, I probably could set up that experiment at some point. I'll probably do that. That'd be really funny. Even here, I think this is kind of an example of Amar maybe getting slightly too cocky, because he's doing well, right? He pulls aggro here, and then with no Timber chain, at least no current point in Timber chain, he kind of walks up, which I think he could have just chilled. The wave is shoving into him anyway. He definitely did not need to tank that stun and all the autos here, because the issue is now that Nigma can kind of look to dive him, so he's going to do a good job of chaining away, dodges the stun, which was key because he maybe could have died there. Chains away again, and you know, he gets all the XP, which is kind of the key thing there. He even uses his Q actually as a way to get through the tree line quicker and chain across. Right there, he uses it. So that was really cool as well. That's something I actually haven't really seen from other players, so beautifully done. Also, I will say that, honestly, one of the key things that OG does with Timber every single game is they give him a ton of solo XP. His Lion is only level 3. And this really is important. If your position 4 when you're playing Timber saps too much XP in a hard lane, you're never going to have a game. Now, in a good lane, it's actually okay, because in a good lane, you can kind of pressure his Timber, right? For instance, if the enemy carry was something like, you know, a Wraith King or a Sven, he could actually look to kind of man up and stun with Lion and use the Q on Timber and auto attack and so on. But in most matchups, you don't really want to do that. But either way, getting into the first dive here, we're going to see him look to get aggressive, and really the key thing here is the early level 6 timing. So this mainly comes as a result of him not having his XP sapped, and how this matchup works, Seb even said this on the panel, which I thought was a good insight. How this matchup works between Lesh Timber is whoever hits level 6 first can pressure, and you'll see that he hits 6 on Timber and he's going to look to get aggressive. He's got raindrops, a bracer, a wand, every single stat item possible. He's basically got it. The only thing he doesn't have now is the Soul Ring, which is coming on Courier. But he's going to specifically tank this melee creep so that he can dive the tower. Because with the level 3 reactive, you're not invulnerable to the tower, but you can tank it really easily. And we're going to see that here. He's going to look to go for a heavy dive. Unfortunately, he's completely out of mana because he just doesn't have that Soul Ring. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because he's going to build up wand charges. So he specifically stays in wand range here, which is pretty cool, really advanced stuff. Stays in wand range and just bullies Miracle to the ends of the earth. Picks up his Soul Ring here, nearly bursts Miracle with the chain into the Q. Probably should have actually used his ulti there, but it sets up for a kill for the Void Spirit, which is freaking massive. And then things just get really good from here. He's able to kill GH, which is massive. They take him down, and things are looking good. So next up, I like what Amar does here with the skill build. He doesn't max out reactive, and the main reason for that is, number one, putting points in chain is really important. This ability sucks at level 1. You really need to get it scaling as soon as possible. So if you don't need to max reactive, you generally shouldn't, and you should start to take your chain. That's honestly a big thing. From there, the next thing to consider is that he's playing against a heavy magic damage comp. So while the reactive is still good because people still auto attack you and it still gives you a ton of regen and it makes the stacks last longer, right? People don't understand that. The stack duration actually goes up. So like maxing your reactive is really good. Every single point of reactive is like quite a buff. It really is notable how much better this ability gets when you max it. So there is builds where you max out the E on Timber. Specifically, if you have like a really easy Timber game, you can nearly take the tier 2 tower if you have a cart. They'll have to glyph, right? Which is pretty valuable. However, with how much they've nerfed chain, like Timber has been nerfed over and over and over again. This ability has been slaughtered from what it used to be. It used to be one of the best abilities in Dota, if not like the best at level 1, the Timber chain. Now it's pretty horrible. And so you really need to put points into it. You'll see he's not going to even consider the armor now. And one more thing to consider as well is cutting wave. So when do you cut wave as Timber? Well, the main time you cut wave is honestly, from what I've seen from Amar's gameplays, almost every game if your lane gets freed up. And the reason why is he seemingly puts more of a priority on flash farming than taking this tower, funny enough. And I think the reason why is if you don't tank the tower, or if you don't take the tower, people will kind of show up, and you might be like, oh, but then people will show up, but their teammates can help them, and that's true. But if you're strong, especially if you're really strong, and I would argue he's having a good game, right? Top 4 net worth is quite good for Timber, because considering how bad this hero's early game can be, he's having a good game. Undoubtedly, he's having a good game. And so you kind of want people to show up. You almost want people to come to your lane and contest you, because you can either kill them or just ignore them and farm. And you'll see he kind of looks to do that here. He's trying to farm this camp. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. I guess he was a little bit afraid of getting ganked here, so he's going to take a bit of a defensive posture on the map. He's just chilling now, kind of resets, doesn't want to get coiled into like a Lesh TP or something of the sort. That's the main thing he has to be afraid of, coil in the Lesh TP this game. And so another thing about cutting the wave is it also makes you harder to gank, because if you kind of just sit under your tier 1, you can get TP'd on here and here. However, if you're playing here, the only thing you have to be afraid of is smoke ganks from mid, so that's something you have to be aware of, but in general, you'll be alright. From here, we're going to see him cut the mid wave. Looks like he's going to tank this this creep wave. Okay, he gets kicked out by the Lesh. Unfortunately, this is one of those games where you're not diving towers, and that's a key thing as well. You'll see Amar's gameplay really varies, and that's why he's so good at this hero. That's why he can first pick it. In this game, he's going to be playing a very defensive style, not looking to take the tier 1, looking to play, just chill, not go crazy, play for stacks. Even in a moment, I think he's going to look to take Ancient stacks this game. OG constantly makes Ancient stacks for Timber because you can kill them very easily. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Unfortunately, Nigma knows this, and so they're kind of camping it. I think they even took some of it with the Leshrac. I believe they specifically took actually almost all of it, which can be a bit of a problem. So a big thing as well in this hero is you don't want to TP to defend towers early on. You want to always enable your own game. You should play very greedy on Timber early game. Like, this hero is not a hero that should sack his game for his teammates. You should play for this 12 to 20 minute timing where your hero is like really, really OP because your chain is now maxed out. It does a ton of damage at this point. It goes really far and really fast, so you're hard to kill, and you have your hood. And you'll see we're gonna see a mid push come out, and he's gonna do a really good job here. First off, he builds reactive before TPing mid. If you don't build reactive stacks and then you TP to defend a tower, you can just straight up die from full HP. But he doesn't do that. He builds up reactive, and this is gonna put him in a pretty comfortable position. If he gets gone on with a hood and 18 reactive stacks, he's probably not going to die. So he's able to throw out a Chakram, defend the tower, and OG is able to separate. And this is only really the main time I would look to defend towers as Timber, where like you have your timings and you can actually defend it. Even from a moment from now, the Leshrac's going to come back and OG just kind of gives it up. They seemingly say, okay, it's just too much of a problem. They have this Leshrac, it's too hard to defend. So instead, he's just going to give it up and look to farm the mid wave. And here we're going to see a classic Timber situation. He knows the enemy is mid, but he's built up the reactive once again. You'll see how good he is about this, right? He's just constantly aware of his reactive stacks. And because of that, his 27 armor with the hood and 36 HP regen is enough to keep him alive. He also has a magic wand, pops the hood active, and he's fine. And this allows them to get a return kill onto the Nyx, bait Nigma into kind of wasting their time. And yeah, it's a good team fight. Notice how he doesn't chain in. And the reason why he's not chaining in there, even though they casted so much on him, is they have counter picks to the Timber. Once again, this is not a good Timber game, and so he has to play in a way in which he's kind of a tank, he's a bait, but he can't just YOLO chain in. And a lot of players would just YOLO chain in this game. In fact, most would YOLO chain in, and that's why they would just feed. Next up, we're going to see him actually pick up a Sange and a Clarity. Clearly, he sees himself as the guy who's going to tank, and I know I've already said this, so I'm not going to really delve too much into this at this point, but he's going Sange first item. On top of that, he's taken his mana regen talent. You might be expecting him to take the health talent. The only thing about the health talent is like, you kind of have enough HP if you buy Sange, and I think how Amar sees this hero is, if you don't take the mana regen talent, it can be pretty rough to sustain your spells. Now, to be fair, it's only what, like 90 mana per minute, which is nothing insane. That's like only one ability per minute, so I don't think the health talent is, the mana regen talent is that good. But it is kind of enough to just get you over the edge to make sure you have spells for each individual team fight. On top of that, you have to use Soul Ring off cooldown. If you forget to use your mana boots or your Soul Ring literally off cooldown, you will guaranteed run out of mana. On top of that, he's constantly shipping out Clarities, and you also desperately need a mana regen neutral item. So basically, if you don't go Kaya first item, you practically have to spam every mana regen item in the game, and you'll see him just farming. You want to play Timber as a farming core in practically every game. You're not going to see Amar pushing tier 2s and tier 3s as this hero. you'll basically always see him farming jungle, taking stacks, connecting camps together so that he can nuke them with his spells. So this next fight we're going to see from Ammar is honestly beautiful execution. It's kind of just shows how much he understands what's happening in this game. Even with Sanj and Hood, he's still not going to bait his team into a bad fight. Because the further you go, the further your team has to go. So instead, he starts the fight with a good chakram onto the Nyx. He's not afraid of the Carapace because he's very much in position. From there, he's going to wait. Puck is going to look to go on BZM, so BZM has to be a little bit careful. Fortunately for Nigma, they're able to actually dodge the coil, and this is where the fight kind of goes well for OG. Right, the Puck coil is wasted, Puck coil initiation is also wasted, and now he's going to look to go on Kuroki. And the reason why this is okay is his team can back him up. He's not going too far to the point where Nigma can easily just focus him down. He has an easy disengage path as well. Basically, if he chained to like here, he'd probably die. But his current positioning is not nearly enough for him to die. With the Sanj and the Hood, the stun doesn't last that long. He also has a Nether Shawl at this point, so he's kind of just tanky enough to this magical damage. And now he's gonna chill. Fortunately for them, Miracle gets blocked by the creep wave, which is the only reason why they're able to kill him here. Such is life, but now with the Nyx going down, the Leshrac being completely surrounded by trees, the Whirling Death is the best ability in Dota. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? 32 damage per trees. If you hit 6 trees, you're gonna do like 500 pure damage, guys. 500 pure damage, you understand what that means? Let me show you what it means. That's what it means. That's what it means, all right? But that's what it means, okay? If people get surrounded in trees, it's your time to go. People don't really, I know for a fact, people don't value this on Timber. It's interesting. Only really the best Timber players generally value surrounded tree heroes. I don't know how else to put that. Heroes surrounded by trees enough. And yeah, he just instantly kills the Leshrac. Huge fight for OG. And now we're going to see the Exodia timing for Timbersaw. What is that timing? It's when you get your Kaya Sanj, because Kaya alone only gives 8% spell amp. Kaya Sanj gives 16% spell amp. On top of that, you get a bonus 8% spell amp from your level 15 talent. All of a sudden, you have 24% spell amp. And honestly, I feel like they work together. I'm not actually sure on that. Maybe someone could tell me in the comments and educate all of us. Does the 16% spell amp from Kaya Sanj and the 8% spell amp work together, right? Do they amp each other? Either way, you're going to see how much damage this hero does. I couldn't actually tell you, but I can tell you for a fact that, when you get all of this spell amp, your hero does a dumb amount of damage. This is the major Timber timing. This is when your hero is beyond stupid, as he's going to evaporate the Nyx Assassin. From there, he still has to be a little bit careful. They still have the Leshrac, the Puck, and the Darkseer up. Plenty of damage to potentially kill him off, so he doesn't want to instantly run in. He's able to dodge the silence from the Puck, probably unintentionally, but doesn't get hit by the silence from the Puck, and now they can look to explode the next target that overextends. That first target this game is actually going to be the Io. He doesn't go on Miracle here, and I think the main reason for that is the Aegis. Doesn't really see it as a worthwhile opportunity. Does throw out a nice Chakram on the 3 heroes. That Chakram did about 1200 damage because it does 400 to 3 heroes pure. So that's obviously impressive. And from there, look at this chain. That's just knowing where the trees are into the Q on the Io. And that is why Io does not like Timber. You actually die from half HP when he hits this timing. And yeah, the Puck gets hexed. The Lion counterpick comes out. Gets a beautiful positioning onto this tree. And he almost dies solely to the Timber damage on Puck. Obviously, it wasn't literally a solo kill, but it was pretty freaking close. And yeah, this is why people don't let Ammar play Timber. He just, even when he gets Giga counterpicked, he just knows how to play the hero as he evaporates the Darkseer as well. And yeah, this is why you don't really give this guy Timbersaw. You can counterpick him with practically 4 heroes, and yet it doesn't matter. He still manages to basically win his lane, or pretty close to win his lane, in a clear counterpick. And yeah, just, he's the damage in these team fights. Let's be real. I mean, it's not all the damage, but he's probably a good 50% of their damage. All right, and we'll watch one more team fight as we see OG just kind of clean up this match, and then we'll end off the video. But hopefully you guys have really enjoyed and appreciated Ammar's gameplay. It's quite beautiful stuff. No surprise that this guy won the major, but as we'll see, team fight breaks out here, and immediately he's going to look to get aggressive. Now he's kind of got his timing where he's not too tanky. I mean, he doesn't really have much more HP than he did earlier, but he's got a Yules, and he's got a lot more damage. So if he goes on someone, he can kind of actually threaten them. We'll see him go on the Lesh here, and yeah. Beautiful healing from GH on the Io here, but man, just Oh my gosh. As Miracle tries to go back in here, he's going to pop the Yules, which is actually a really nice usage of the Yules. I thought it dispels the Shroud from Eternal Shroud. Apparently it doesn't, which is kind of weird. I definitely thought it would, but it doesn't. Either way, it doesn't really matter. He's going to go on to Miracle again here. And yeah, there goes the Leshrac. Just dies to the impetuses of the Enchantress. Just so much pure damage. The Hood really doesn't matter, honestly, from the Leshrac. As good as the Spell Lifesteal item is, it doesn't do anything against Timber because he's all pure damage. Every ability is pure. Impetus is pure. And they just chunk through him. Alright, and that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as we watch him clean up GH again. Yules on the relocate. Beautiful Yules pick up this game. And that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.